Closet, a Todd Mills mystery. Book 1. Author R.D. Zimmerman. Publisher Scribble Pub. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Narrator Eric Aust. Chapter 25. Todd was speechless when Janice told him. And they sat in her 12th floor office downtown, and he stared out the window at the grassy plaza on the south end of Government Center. It seemed to Todd that his stomach had fallen away. He could barely breathe, let alone move. The day, like his life, was careening out of control. Todd, you do understand how serious this is, don't you? Slowly turning toward her, Todd tried to say something. Couldn't. And when he finally managed a few words, his voice was small, almost childlike. Janice, this is impossible. Not according to the lab test. But... Todd, listen to me, she implored. Just a few minutes ago, just before you walked in, I called Detective Rawlings at the police department. They've gotten the initial results back from the lab. The hairs match. Deep inside, he was shaking. This couldn't be happening. They'd analyzed the hairs from the Cubs' hat and found them to match the samples plucked from his own scalp. How was it possible? Suddenly, this spacious modern office felt like a prison. No, a trap. He'd come down here, and now he was caught. Janice, that can't be my hat, he said desperately. I'm sure the last time I saw it was at Michael's. Like I told the cops, I threw it on the floor. You've got to believe me. I haven't been over on that side of Lake Calhoun in weeks. And I certainly wasn't down there last night. Janice rose from her large wooden desk, and as she started to pace, she said, Oh my God, why did I ever quit smoking? She shook her head, shrugged, and muttered, Todd, this is bad. Real bad. Are they going to charge me with killing that guy? I get 2 cigarettes a week, she said, pulling open a drawer. And just watch, I'm going to smoke them both right now. Janice, are they going to charge me with anything? I don't know. Nothing's been really proved. I mean, you can't kill a guy with a baseball cap. Still, this looks bad. It really does. This could be enough to put you on trial. But... Todd, you can say whatever you like, but they found your goddamn Cubs hat by that body. Of course, if they charge you with murder, I'll insist they do a DNA test on the hairs. And that could take a month or so, but maybe that'll clear you. Maybe somehow they'll find that the hairs don't match after all, but if they can somehow prove that's your cap and that's his blood on the visor. But I wasn't down there. I wasn't down at the lake last night. Todd looked up at her and begged. Janice, you've got to believe me. I didn't kill this guy, whoever he was. His name was Brian Fisher. I've never even heard of Brian Fisher. Oh, God, Todd. Janice stopped, struck a match, and lit her cigarette. I shouldn't be representing you. This is too hard. Janice? No, don't talk like that. But you can't leave me. I know you too well, Todd. Maybe one of my partners should be handling this. I don't want another lawyer. I think it's a conflict of interest, Todd. I don't think I'm the right person for you. The cigarette shaking in her lips. Janice took a puff, then shook her head and started pacing again. I'm just not sure you wouldn't be better off with someone else. Jesus Christ, Janice, Todd shouted, coming to his feet and moving toward her. You're talking like I did it, like I killed this guy. Todd, Janice, please, don't say this. I'm just not so sure you don't need someone with a little more distance. Someone with a better perspective. You're one of my closest friends, Todd. We've known each other for over 20 years, and... I mean, we even dated in college, and I loved Michael. He was my friend, too. She shook her head hopelessly and said, I'm afraid I'm too involved to be impartial. I have to have somebody gay. Well, we're 1 in 10, so there are a whole lot of queer lawyers. I can rattle off a dozen names of gay and lesbian lawyers who jump at the chance to represent you. This is a hot one. Unfortunately, I'm just too close to the fire. Don't do this to me. He went to the door of her small office and leaned against it, his forehead touching the cool wood. Could he actually be charged with murder? Only a month ago, he was being lauded with praise, wined and dined, and awarded with Emmys. How quickly things had changed, and if they were going to charge him with killing a man he'd never even laid eyes on, did that mean they'd charge him for the murder of Michael as well? Good God, his career and a good part of his life were now ruined. And if Janice left him, there was no way he'd ever get through this. Hell no. He couldn't imagine working with another lawyer. The mere ideal of trying to get a new attorney to understand the complexities of his life was just too daunting. How many times did we go out? He asked, turning away from her, pacing a few steps to the other side of the small chamber. What? How long did we date in college? I don't know. 2 months. What the hell are you getting at? More like 3. I think... Anyway, I fell in love with you. Jesus, Todd, don't. She snuffed out her cigarette and dropped herself into a chair. We can't get into all that now. You're in much too much trouble. Okay, you're right. I didn't fall in love with you, said Todd, going over to the window and staring out again. But ever since then, I've loved you. Stop it, Todd. I mean it. You're going to make me cry, warned Janice. And I'm telling you, I might look like a nice lipstick Leslie in this business suit, but if I start bawling, I'm going to lose it. This is way too hard. I'm going to start crying. My makeup's going to run, and I'm going to walk out of here looking like some wimpy suburban housewife. Funny. And here all these years, I thought you just didn't want to look like a diesel dyke. Todd steered the conversation back down his intended path, asking, You've loved me too, haven't you? I mean, ever since then. Of course. There was so much that was right about us, he continued. Everything, except, of course, the sexual part. It all makes such sense when I look back. It was always awkward when we kissed and fooled around. With a short laugh, Janice said, Somehow we both knew that we were queer, didn't we? Probably, but you accepted a lot sooner than me, like decades sooner. When did you come out that next fall? Right. I went to Europe that spring and summer, which is when I had my first big affair with another woman. It scared me, volunteered Todd, looking at her over his shoulder. Your honesty, I mean, when you came out, I was afraid what it might mean about me. I knew, of course, that I had same-sex feelings, but I was doing my damnedest not to admit it. For a moment, Todd was carried away by their shared history. And that's one of the things I've loved most about you. Your honesty. Your integrity. Todd, have you flipped or what? Why the hell are you talking about this now? Because I've been trying to learn from you. He turned from the window and said, Just look at me, Janice. Seated at her desk, she looked up, staring at him with reddened eyes. He crossed to her, pushed aside a few papers, and sat down on the edge of the desk. Reaching out, he took both her hands in his. Clearing his throat, Todd said, We've been through a lot together. All these years, all these problems. You've always told me the truth, even when it hurt. And I've been trying to do the same. Hell, you were the first person I told about Michael and me. Oh, sweetheart, you've always been so hard on yourself. So ask. Ask what? Go on, ask me what you're worried about. Ask me what I did or didn't do. You got to know. But, no buts. Be a big old bull dyke lawyer and walk all over me. Be as direct as possible. Janice blotted her right eye, asked meekly, Did you kill Michael? Absolutely not. Todd waited, then added, Go on. Did you kill Brian Fisher? No, I don't even know who he was. Were you cruising down at Lake Calhoun last night? No, I've never even done that. Gone down there and had sex. It scares me too much. Todd watched as she closed her eyes and bit her bottom lip. Then she let out a huge sigh, sat back in her office chair. The next moment she was leaning forward, wrapping her arms around him. He bent over, hugged her back, clutched her, and held on. I'm sorry, said Janice. I was just so worried. I was just... Shh, it's okay. God, this is a mess. She pushed back, wiped her eyes. No shit. This has turned into a pig roast, and I'm the pig, and the media is swarming in for the feast. Channel 7 was down at the murder site this morning. It was on the early news. Oh, great. What did they say? Was my name brought up? He listened as she related the entire story. When Janice mentioned that Channel 7 claimed to have received the initial call, Todd took special note. He shook his head and said, Janice, I had to tell you all about last night. Of course you do. He got up, went around, and sat down in front of her desk. I went down to the Gay Times. Oh, that was smart. I'm sure a jury will find that very interesting. I mean, it doesn't sound very good, you going out to the bars right after Michael's funeral. You weren't trying to pick up someone, were you? No. Thank God for miracles. I just wanted to talk to Jeff. Todd studied Janice as he said, I don't know. I just wanted to know if Michael was seeing someone else. What? Michael? You two didn't have an open relationship, did you? No. It was just a thought, a worry with no resolution, he realized, looking away. Jeff wasn't particularly happy to see me, though. I bet not. She lit her second cigarette, and then reached into a drawer and took out a fresh yellow legal pad. What else? Did you just leave then? Did you have a drink or anything? Yeah. 1, 2, maybe. I can't remember. I watched part of the drag show. He added the most important aspect of the night, saying, and I ran into Rawlings. What? Detective Rawlings? Yeah, he's gay. Of course he is. You knew? Absolutely. And you did? I was, well, surprised. Todd, sometimes you are so dense. She eyed him suspiciously. What was Rawlings doing down there? Following you? I don't know. And that's what scares me. Okay, pal, out with it. What? What's going on with you two? I'm no dummy. I can tell by the way your voice is all tight. Todd knew, of course, that he had to tell her. Janice, Did you talk to him last night? Yes, but... Well, what did he say? He... Come on, out with it, Mr. Honesty and Integrity. Give me a break, I'm trying. Todd looked away and blurted. He came over to my apartment. We had sex. Ah, shit, Todd. It just happened. I don't know. I was depressed. I was tired. You screwed Rawlings. She dropped her pen and smacked her forehead with her palm. God! But you're getting good at complicating your life. I think maybe I was wrong all these years. You should have stayed in the closet after all. At least then you weren't a danger to yourself. He started at the beginning, telling her everything, how Rawlings had offered him a drink and seemed to hit on him down at the bar, how Todd had gone over and slipped into Michael's house. You did what? She asked. I went in through the basement. Not good, Todd. His place is still a sealed crime scene, moaned Janice. That's sure to come up if this goes to trial. I should say when. Todd went on explaining how he'd gone home peacefully, quietly. He'd been totally exhausted, and then there was a knock on his door. Rawlings had come in. And... Janice cut to the chase, asking, did he stay the whole night? No. Slam, bam, and there goes your perfect alibi. I think it was about 3:30 when he left. Maybe 4, added Todd, recalling how quickly Rawlings had departed. We'll have to wait until the coroner's report, but they think this Fisher guy was killed even later than that. Todd slumped back in the leather chair. He understood the evening. How one thing had led to the next, and the next, from bumping into Rawlings to Jeff, to going to Michael's. There had been an odd rhythm to the evening, a natural progression of events, and in its own weird way, it made sense that Rawlings had come over to Todd's and that they'd ended up in bed. The only thing I don't get about any of this, said Todd, is my head. I mean, this morning Rawlings brought over the one they found, but if it's really mine, how the hell did it wind up at Lake Calhoun? That's what we're going to be up against. Janice jotted something down on her pad, circled it twice. I mean, strictly between us. What do you think? Was or wasn't that your hat? Actually, I'd say it probably was. Okay, so there's not much sense in disputing that. But I thought I left it at Michael's. I don't know. I can't remember. He paused. Did the police find anything? Did they report any evidence like that? Not that I'm aware of. But if you left it at Michael's, then whoever killed Michael could easily have taken it. Todd sat back in the chair and disappeared into thought, then said, This really has all been premeditated, hasn't it? It's beginning to look that way. Janice shook her head. Either someone's trying to cover their tracks by making you look guilty as hell, or someone's trying to frame me for some other reason. He stared at her, suddenly afraid. But who? And why? You got any enemies? Anyone in that wonderful world of television who might want to sink your career? I don't know. I sure as hell didn't think so. Oh, you better think twice, Toots, advised Janice. You're about to be charged with first-degree murder. A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.